Hey guys, today for this video I thought that I would talk about Angeles City. I've noticed that a lot of the expats doing these YouTube videos, there are at least two or three that I know of that are in Dumaguete, and there are one or two at least that I can think of in Manila. But I'm not aware of a lot of expats talking about Angeles City, at least in a good way. And maybe there are, and I just haven't, run across them on YouTube. But I wanted to talk for a few minutes about Angeles City and why you may want to consider that. If you're thinking about moving to the Philippines or even traveling through the Philippines, I just wanted to kind of talk about it and talk about my experiences there. If you've never watched one of my videos before, I was a missionary in the Philippines. Most of my time, 9 years, was in Manila. Then the last couple of years, I moved to Angeles City. And you're probably familiar with this too, but just to give you a little bit of history, one of the reasons that Angeles City, that area, is such a strong economic zone is because the Clark Air Force Base was there for many years. And that brought in some different businesses, some good, some not so good. But that's part of the history of that area. And if you go online, here's the problem. If you go online or get on Google and just start looking up Angeles, you may just see the sleazy parts of the city if you look online, because it is home to the notorious Fields Avenue, which is the red light district of the Philippines. That's there. I'm not going to deny that that's part of the city. It's even part of the economy of the city. But there's a lot more to Angeles City than just Fields Avenue. Again, as a Christian pastor, that was not, visiting the red light district was not on my agenda. But I found a lot of things to like about the city. So, in other words, do not stereotype the city just based on that one aspect. So what I'm going to do this morning, I've written down some notes. I want to share with you 10 things that I really liked about Angeles. And this may give you some insights and some helpful information if you're thinking about moving there, or if you're looking for a place in the Philippines where you could live. The first one, and this is really good for expats, the first reason I loved Angeles City was the rent was reasonable, and you really had a large selection of rental places. I mentioned in another video that the sweet spot tends to be around $200 to $300. For that price, you can rent a really nice 2 to 3 bedroom apartment that's secure, that's safe, that's in a pretty good area. And I didn't have any trouble finding a place like that when I moved there. If you want to go a little more expensive, like if you have a family or you just want a whole house, if you're willing to go up to, let's say, $800 to $1,000 a month, you can have a pretty nice house there. And so, anyway, I just found that rental apartments were everywhere, and I'm not talking about dumps, nice apartments. So there's a wide selection, and the rent is very reasonable. When I moved from Manila to Angeles City, my rent basically was cut in half, and I had a nicer place. So a lot to choose from there. Maybe in another video I'll talk a little bit more about renting in the Philippines and the things to look out for. But that's one of the number one things that I think will make the city very livable for you. The second thing I liked about Angeles City is good medical care. What I usually did is I went to the Angeles University Foundation Hospital. That is a college and hospital located there in the city. And I went there for my medical needs when all I did was, getting a physical, getting my cholesterol checked, that kind of thing. But when I would go to the doctor there, I think the doctor's fee was like 400 or 500 peso. When my wife and I got married, she went there for her OBGYN. She went also, I think I've mentioned in my video on emergency costs that my wife ended up having to get her tonsils taken out. So we found a very good ear, nose, and throat doctor who performed that surgery using fairly modern techniques, as far as I know. And we were just very satisfied with the medical care that we received there at a fraction of the cost of what it would be in the USA. So medical care, and by the way, I know of other friends who have also gone to AUF for different things. The medical care that you can get in Angeles City is really good. The third thing that I enjoyed about Angeles City is the malls. You have, for as far as the larger malls go, you have SM Clark and you have Marquee Mall, and both of those are pretty big. Then you have some smaller malls. If you go to Angeles City proper, there's some malls that are a little bit older. But in terms of just buying whatever it is that you need, or just going out to Starbucks, or just going out to watch a movie, anything like that, it was there. It was available. And so my wife and I would do that a good bit if we just wanted to hang out and have fun somewhere. We'd usually go to SM Clark, sometimes Marquee Mall, like I said. But there's plenty to do there without getting bored. You can go over to the mall, and I found that the selection of things to buy was also good there at those malls. Maybe it's because it was close to Manila, so you didn't have far to go to ship things there. But the malls were another good thing, another perk, I think, of living in Angeles City. Okay, the fourth thing, okay, I've mentioned reasonable rent, good medical care, good malls. The number four reason that I liked Angeles is great food. They had just really nice restaurants there. In fact, I remember one that came in, I believe it was called Gustav's, after I moved there, that was an Italian place. But, pizza, Italian, Chinese food. Over in the Clark area, there's even a Mexican restaurant, which can be kind of hard to find in the Philippines. Pretty much whatever you want as far as food goes. You want really high-end, expensive stuff. You want more reasonably priced food. I ate very well when I was living in Angeles City. So to me, that's just another big perk. And you're not going to starve as long as you have the money, a little bit of money to eat. You're not going to starve in Angeles City. You're going to eat well. So the food's great there. I really loved that. The fifth thing that I liked about Angeles City was Clark Airport. I mentioned that there used to be an Air Force base there. That is no longer there, but they have a really nice airport there. And Clark Airport was my favorite. It was my favorite airport in the Philippines. I had flown, obviously, the international one in Manila. I've flown in the domestic one in Manila, and I've landed in other places in the Philippines, Baguio, CDO. I've been to different airports. And I would say Clark is my favorite because it was kind of laid back. When you went there, you didn't feel like you were just being herded like cattle because it was smaller, more relaxed. And if you're living in Angeles and if you want to go visit Hong Kong or visit Macau, when my wife and I first started chatting, she was in Macau. And when I wanted to meet her in person, just bought a ticket from Clark to Macau and went over there and saw her. It wasn't a problem. Or for some people, I'm not going to go into a lot of details here, but depending on the kind of visa you have, if you don't have a long-term visa, you may find that you need to get out of the country for 24 hours just so you don't violate the terms of your visa. And again, Clark is great for that because you could go over to Macau for a day or Hong Kong, something like that, and it's no problem. So Clark Air Force or Clark Airport was another thing I really liked about Angeles City. Number six, I've mentioned these first five things, but number six kind of brings some of this together in that Angeles is a smaller city where everything is reasonably accessible. And what I'm saying is that you may find that in some other cities to get over to the airport or to get to the mall, you feel like you have to fight a lot of traffic or a lot of messed up roads to get to something. And where I was living, at least in Angeles City, I was living over in the Diamond subdivision in the Balibago area. Most of the things I needed to get to, I could jump on a Jeep or a tricycle and be there in just a few minutes. Now the airport was a little different. You need to get in a car and it's about 15 or 20 minutes away. But even that's not really bad if you think about it. So that was just another thing that I enjoyed about that city is it was not terribly inconvenient to get anywhere. In fact, most of the things that you want to do, you can hop in a Jeep and be there in just a few minutes. And the traffic, by the way, is not too bad there. Sometimes in the evenings, the main road that went through the city, I think it's called MacArthur, it would get a bit crowded in the evening sometimes, but not always. So just in terms of, again, getting around the traffic, I found it pretty easy to get around and do what I needed to do. Even paying the bills, there was a Save More Mall near where I was living, and most of the bills I could pay at that Save More Mall. There was a place where I could pay water, pay electricity, that kind of thing. So it was accessible. Okay, number 7. I'll keep going here. Another thing that I liked about Angeles City was the festive atmosphere. That's number 7, the festive atmosphere. And I talked about the sleaze earlier, and that's true. That's not what I was there for, not something that I cared for. But the city itself kind of had a party atmosphere, and that's not always a bad thing because when you're just walking around the city, if if you wanted to hop into a coffee shop at 1 a.m., there were places that stayed open really late. Or if you wanted to just listen to some music somewhere while you're having dinner, that's kind of thing is widely available there. Or if you and your friends want to go do karaoke or videoke as they call it in the Philippines, that's available. Just there was an atmosphere and a feeling to the city that to me was really enjoyable. It was just a fun place to live in. Again, it's not all about the sleeves. It was just a fun, festive atmosphere there. Number 8, the eighth thing that I liked about Angeles was the expat community. Because of the history of the city and because it was such a strong economic zone, I met a lot of expats there. And by the time I moved there, I was not really a guy that needed a lot of contact with Westerners. I got used to hanging out with mostly Filipinos and not even seeing another Westerner for days or maybe even weeks at times. But having said that, it was kind of a nice change of pace to not feel like you're the only Westerner for miles. And especially at the gym where I trained, I would meet guys from Australia, from America, from other places. And it was just, to me, it just made the city really interesting because you meet someone and you never know when you're going to meet someone from a different country there. So you could call that the expat community or an international community if you want to call it that. But to me, that was another cool thing about the city. Okay, final 2. The ninth thing that was good about Angeles for me was it is only about an hour or so away from Manila. And once I left Manila, I really didn't want to go back there very often, to be honest with you, just because the city's so crowded, polluted, so hard to get around. But I did end up needing to go there quite a few times. One thing for my own immigration, if you're going to do something significant with your immigration, like change your visa status or something, you've got to go to the main immigration office there in Manila, which I jokingly would call the Manila Zoo. I had to do that. When my wife and I were working on her spousal visa, we would have to go into Manila for her medical and then to the embassy. And one thing that was nice about Angeles is you hop on a bus and you're in Manila within about an hour or so. Now once you get in Manila, because of the traffic, you have no idea if it's going to take you 1 hour or 3 hours to get to your destination within Manila. But having said all that, it was just nice to not be too far away from Manila if we needed to go there for something. So that's another perk. Okay, last and definitely, this is definitely not least, the final thing that I loved about Angeles City was the Filipino people. In I'm not sure if I've talked a lot about Filipino culture. I don't guess I have yet, but I found Filipinos to be hospitable, fun-loving, gregarious, very easy to befriend, and Angeles was no exception in this. In fact, I would not say that people in Angeles are more friendly than Manila, but the laid back, the pace of the city. Remember, I said it's festive. It's a little more, or maybe a good bit more laid back than Manila was. So, I just made some wonderful Filipino friends while I was living there, even though we were only there for a year and a half or so. Some of these were my wife's friends because she had previously worked for an airline in Clark a year or two before we met, and she had friends there. So I just enjoyed the people there, and I think you'll find that if you approach Angeles or any place in Manila with an open heart, ready to embrace the people and get to know them, you'll have a really good experience. So those are my 10 things that I loved about Angeles City. And if you're thinking about moving there, just keep in mind it's not all about the red light district. There's a lot to like about Angeles. And for me, I believe that it has a lot to offer, especially for an expat. So I hope this video has helped. Feel free to leave a comment or question below, and I will make another video sometime soon.